Rob Derhak, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I was just waking up. It's 8 o'clock here on the West Coast.
Oh man.
So where are you at these days? I know the band's originally from Buffalo, I think, but then you're where are you now living?
I'm a Mainer. I've been out in Maine since 1997, I want to say.
Oh,
Been
nice.
living
Yeah,
here for a long time, yeah.
yeah, that's a beautiful state. I love Maine. Uh, so tell me, so you guys have a new album coming out, Circle of Giants. That's coming out, I think, January 15th. You've got a new single out right now. You also are going to have a 35th anniversary tour in coordination with the album. So you got a busy year coming up, right?
Yeah, we've taken a little time to recuperate, and we're going to be doing a release party in January, and then we're hitting the road for a tour. Actually, we'll be out on the West Coast. That's where our tour is starting up. So starting in February.
Awesome. Yeah, I was checking out the new album, and man, it's so good. I love that music. It's like such a mix of genres. It's all the stuff that I love. It's sort of like a southern rock jam band, folk music. It's all kind of mixed in there together. Uh,
Some
yeah,
psych,
it's
yeah.
How did you guys originally get together? I know, my understand you were a Buffalo band. How did that come about? And also the name, because I'm curious about the name.
The name. Well, yeah, we started out just we were, like any other college band in Buffalo. So we are going to school there and in the 90s and everybody but well, the lineup now has a couple people who weren't there from the early days in Buffalo, but we started out just, playing parties and bars, and we're hanging out with a bunch of like there was no like jam band scene or anything back then. That wasn't a thing because that was in 1990.
Right.
Actually, probably started thinking about it closer to 1989 or whatever. But yeah, so we're starting on the tail end of the 80s.
So you're
And
coming out of the glam rock era.
yeah, yeah, and there was a there was a but the guys in the band at the time that we're playing with were one thing we had in common. One of the bands we had in common was like we really liked Joe Jackson, and he had an album called Jump and Jive, and on it was an old bebop or old big band standard called Five Guys Named Mo, and we decided it would be funny to call the band Five Guys Named Mo.
So
And
kind of a Three
in our
Stooges reference.
wisdom, what's that?
I said kind of a Three Stooges reference in a roundabout way, right?
A little bit, yeah. But it turned out there was already, several other bands doing different music called Five Guys Named Mo, and we just eventually just like got rid of the Five Guys Named part and just kept it as Mo.
It just morphed.
It's more,
There's a lot of great musicians that have come out of Buffalo. Like there's a long list of guys. Um,
yeah.
yeah, it's there must be something in the water up there, right?
There's something in the water, but I don't know if it's necessarily a good thing.
There are, well, yeah.
That was getting the trickle down from Love Canal. I don't know if you remember that, but
Yeah, I do. I'm
uh,
old enough to remember.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and
There's a lot of good musicians.
and also too, you had bands like Grateful Dead. Who were like some of your guys' inspiration when you put the group together?
Well, definitely Grateful Dead in our, especially our scene. Whether you're a huge fan or not, you can't help by just being influenced by their presence um, in every aspect of like trying to do what we do. It's like maybe you're not a fan of the music, but um, the organization, the way they sort of um, just became an entity, I guess, is there's so many bands follow that type of model, but a lot of us in the in our group were into the Grateful Dead, the Allman Brothers, Frank Zappa, like stuff we would listen to when we were younger before some other bands came. Joe Jackson, like I said. But we were also into a lot of other bands at the time, like the Meat Puppets or
Right.
Camper Van Beethoven, stuff like that. That were, I don't know. I'm just kind of spitballing stuff right now, but
Yeah.
those
But
were
kind of
sort
like,
of our influences, stuff that was in that sort of ex-hippie genre, and some of the stuff that was, not quite so, but still really good to listen to.
yeah. Well, Joe Jackson's a great reference because I love everything he's done. I love, and
Well,
we probably have a lot of the same influences musically.
sounds like it, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool because like you definitely hear Allman Brothers and what you guys do. You hear a lot of those bands kind of interwoven in the vibe, and great. I mean, also too, you guys are great players, which is it doesn't seem like you're there are too many avenues you can't go down as a band. Is that when you guys are writing and coming up with songs? What's that process for you?
Well, everybody has in the band has sort of a different process personally, but what ends up happening is we bring anything from like something that's 50% done to 99% done and bring it to the band. And we all come from it, we all come from have a different place we're starting from. That's sort of like why the album kind of probably has, I mean, I think everything is pretty cohesive, but there's different sounds. It's not like, it's not like a dance album, or
Right.
R&B album where everything is R&B. It's what a rock album was in the 70s, or a
Exactly. Yeah.
psychedelic album was in the 70s. They have uh, there's all these different basis for the songs, but they all fit together in a way.
Yeah, it's cohesive, and I think it's like you said, the albums in the '70s or way back, going way back, is more like a entire piece of work, not just putting out singles. Which is today, it seems like everybody's just focused on doing a single and putting that stuff
Well,
out on streaming because it's kind of the streaming thing, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, listen to like I'm not saying I'm a fan or not a fan of the Eagles, but you listen to the Eagles. There's a Joe Walsh tune that's a rocker on it, and then there's like an epic song that's like Hotel California, and then there's like a sleeper country ballad, and none of those
Or
songs are the same kind of music exactly, but they're all the Eagles.
yeah, it all
And it's the
works.
same with like Led Zeppelin or Pink Floyd or that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah. And those are all the bands that I love.
Yeah.
That in that genre. So you guys kind of live on the road. Are you always touring or how does that work for you scheduling wise?
Well, it's not, I mean, we live off of living on the road.
Well,
But
right. These days for sure, right?
um it's not as bad as you would think. Like I would say we might do somewhere between 75 and 100 shows a year. Um so, those are my days away from home. Um it's like back in the old days we would do, I remember when I was really young playing with the band. I don't know, I think we might have done 300 shows one year.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah. So I
even
always
even
remind myself of that.
100 shows is a lot of shows because it's not just the show, it's getting to coming back from, it's all that stuff, right?
Yeah, I guess maybe I'm thinking not so much 100 shows, but 100 days gone.
I got you. Right.
Yeah, so it's probably closer to that.
Yeah.
Probably home 2/3 of the year, I'd say.
Yeah. Well, it's and if you I mean you guys have been doing that for so long, you must love doing it. It's obviously interacting with the audience is a really important part of what you guys do.
Yeah, I mean, there's not really much better, in my opinion, there's no better way to live my life, I don't think. Um, and I'm pretty sure that's how the rest of the band, otherwise we wouldn't be doing it.
Right. And you guys have had some health challenges over the years. I know you personally did.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that? And I know now you've recovered from all that stuff, but what was that like? Did that kind of throw your world upside down a little bit when that was going on?
Yeah, so back in 2017, I noticed a lump on my neck. And it was like below my, behind my beard and stuff. So I never saw it. I was just
Right.
actually scratching my neck. I was on somewhere in Georgia. I think we're in Atlanta. Actually, not somewhere in Georgia. So it's some festival, and we're playing, and I was like itching my neck, and I was like, oh, that's weird. And when I got off tour, I went to the doctor, and they started running all these tests, and it turned out that I had I can't remember, like squamous cell carcinoma. It was an advanced form of an HPV related cancer, and
Mm.
it was odd because it sort of like it presented itself. Most it happens to most guys like either on their tonsils or in their throat, and me it was nasopharyngeal, so it was at the base of my nasopharynx and my nose, but it was
Right.
essentially very close to my throat. So it was a very weird place. Apparently, that only happens in Asian countries for the most part.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So the doctors were,
Still
I don't know
baffled.
how interesting this is to anybody, but
Well, it's interesting because people, dealing with like, musicians, we know musicians, but it's also too, it's real life. It's part of what you guys have to deal with and keep the band going and keep life going, right?
yeah. So when I got that news, I told my doctor she could, call me with any news, and I was on a band meeting. Like we do band meetings and like Zoom call type thing or conference calls, and
Right.
we're in the middle of a band meeting, and I got a call from my doctor. I'm like, oh, I got to take this. I'll be right back. And I left the meeting, and she told me I had cancer. And when I first got the news, like they didn't know exactly what it was, but uh, she said it's stage 4,
Wow.
which is really bad in
Right.
most cancers, in just about every cancer. And basically, getting that news, it was close to a death sentence for me.
Hmm.
And I went back on the call with the guys, and I just sat there listening, and I was like in shock. And then I just told them what was going on, and they were like, what the fuck? Like they had no idea that I was even going to the doctor to get stuff done.
Wow. Yeah.
Uh, so I went through for I would say probably a week of like thinking that it's going to be really hard to beat this at this stage in the game. And then they with further testing they realized it was HPV related, and these types of cancers can be advanced. Like it was really, they said it was like about a stage 3.5,
Hmm.
um, and that is beatable, and for this type of thing. It's just a lot of radiation. So ended up going to Boston, and I spent about 2 months going back and forth, and then eventually just staying there at a place called the Hope Lodge, which was really great.
Hmm.
And they beat you. They beat the shit out of you. Uh,
Right.
I lost. I was down to like I was like started out at about 270 pounds, 265, and I was about 218 pounds when I was done.
Wow.
215 something. Oh no, I got down to 212 is what I got down to.
Hmm.
And it's all radiation. Like I had small bouts, small chemo blasts, and once a week did about 5 rounds of that, and then just like every day for 7 weeks, radiation until I couldn't talk, I couldn't think.
Right.
It was constant pain and misery, and then I beat it. I,
Yeah.
I think I was out on the road playing a show um by January the next year, maybe February. The guys were like, why do you want to do this? And I'm like,
What you
because
do.
I can, I want to do it.
Right.
I needed to have a goal for myself.
Exactly. Yeah.
I probably should have waited a little longer because it was really exhausting, but I got through it. I mean, they never say you beat it. They just say, there's still no no evidence of anything new, and I
Right.
for yearly checkups and say I'm doing well, and there's no evidence of anything new. So
Yeah, that's awesome, man. It's like people forget, like they said, they see people on stage and they think they're kind of Superman, and like they don't realize like they're dealing with all the same shit that everybody else has to deal with. You're dealing
yeah,
with paying the house payment and dealing with the kids, and
it's
it's
true.
yeah, it's like it's crazy. And then just trying to keep a band on the road and do all that is a handful unto itself. Um, you guys have done some crazy huge shows over the years, and one of them was the Woodstock '99. And you've opened
Yeah,
along with that, you've opened for some brands that you guys idolize, the Allman Brothers, the Who, all these
yeah.
different huge bands. What was that experience like at the Woodstock '99? Because that was a particularly crazy show.
I yeah, we didn't really experience any of. I think we might have played on a Thursday, maybe. I want to say we played Thursday, or it was early in the festival. So there wasn't much evidence of it going awry, but you could kind of tell it was a little off and a little weird.
Yeah, because it was
Um,
like on a military base or former
yeah,
military
well,
base,
it's
right?
it's an area where we grew up. Actually, the
Ah,
band.
okay, okay,
It was in Rome, New York, at Griffiths Air Force Base,
right.
which was decommissioned. Um, you know, I don't know how long ago, a very long time ago in the '90s, I think. But we grew up in that area with sonic booms and jets flying over all the time.
Right.
Most of the band grew up. Well, four of us grew up in the Utica, New York area, which is
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
Um,
and that's actually upstate New York is beautiful for people that haven't been there. It's a really beautiful place. Maybe not the Air Force
yeah,
Base, but
yeah,
yeah.
no, yeah. So our experience was a lot. It was really hot. I remember that. So that was, one of the issues. And I think they were like price gouging on water and wouldn't let you bring water in or something.
Right. Yeah.
I don't recall, I don't recall any of that because we were there. We went in, played our show, and then left. And then I remember going up to my mother-in-law's place, which was up in northern New York, on the Thousand Islands, and she had a cottage up there, and we went and hung out there. And I watched everything happen on MTV
Yeah. And you're like,
that
what the
was
hell?
going down on the last day. I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, I was just playing that festival, like, and like it just kind of unraveled day by day. And we were there at the very beginning where it was like not quite unraveling yet.
Yeah. What's some of the, I mean, obviously that's a memorable gig. What's some of the really most memorable or one of the most memorable shows you guys have done that really comes to mind?
Well, I mean, other gigs. I mean, like you were mentioning opening for certain people, and like one of the best times I had was we did a tour with Robert Plant. He
Oh
had a
wow.
band, yeah, and we did a tour, and um, he was like so personal and such a nice guy, like a good guy to hang out with, and you could talk to him. He didn't give the any type of
Weird vibe. Yeah.
weird vibe or anything, and if anything, we were a little bit weirder because like he made fun of us for going golfing. And it's like, you guys are supposed to be fucking rock stars and rock. Like you're supposed to be representing the counterculture, not not going golfing.
That's funny.
But always like the big gig, like playing the first time we headlined Red Rocks. Is
Yeah, it's a great venue. Yeah.
that's such an amazing venue, and um, that stuff you never forget. That's um, playing at Fuji Rock Festival in Japan. The
Right.
first
That's
time.
one of the biggest festivals in Japan. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's met and it's so well done. It's so amazing, and they completely take care. I mean, actually, we've done a few tours of Japan, and they just really do a good job of taking care of you and booking the tour and organizing the entire thing. And you get to see a lot of the world that you haven't seen before. You haven't seen.
Yeah,
So
I used to live in Tokyo, and every time Fuji Rock would come along, I'm like, man, that's a hell of a list of bands. It was always like the who's who of American rock and American, music.
Yeah, it's also a hike from Tokyo. It's like
Yeah.
you fly into Tokyo and then it's still like another 6 hour drive. So like we'd get picked up in a van after flying like 13 or I forgot what the
Yeah.
flight is, like 13 or 14 hours to
Right.
Tokyo.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you're off on this long van ride and
Yeah.
just a complete mess by the time you get there.
Yeah, I did a gig in India. We did a festival in January, and
Wow.
we flew into Germany, and you're like, okay, I'm used to going to Europe 10 hours, so no big deal. And then you got
Yeah.
another 10-hour flight to get to India. And it's like, hey, and
Oh
then
my Lord.
yeah, it's like, well, you know how that is. It's kind of funny for me, like when I got on a gig where I could actually have sleep, it felt weird to do a gig where I was like actually had a good night's sleep. It felt a little unnerving.
Yeah, right.
In a way. Um, what's some advice that you can give to guys, young musicians out there that want to do a road thing and want to do all that? Like, what's some of the big things that you've learned along the way?
Well, big things are one of the biggest things on the road is never behave like a diva and treat your crew like they're part of the band and treat the local crew and the venue like they matter. So you go say you don't even have a crew yet and you're just traveling as a band, or maybe you have just one guy helping out. You show up and there's a sound guy and there's a monitor guy and there's a lighting guy. And even if those guys see it every day, they see bands come in and a lot of the bands are just either shitty bands or shitty people.
Right.
Uh, you know, don't be the treat everyone with the same amount of respect that you would want to be treated with. And uh it goes a long way, it goes a long way. It gets you gigs in the future, it gets you wanted to come back. um I mean, that's definitely one thing, one of the biggest things. And what we did was we lived together and we lived like communists basically. We didn't everything was paid for by the money we got from shows, and we gave ourselves, like, back in the 90s, we gave ourselves a stipend of $40 per week per each of us, and that was like
Right.
our spending money. I'm
Your
I'm,
top
I'm
your
sure
top ramen
inflation
money.
probably the pay that we got was the same as what these young bands will get, but the
Yeah.
inflation has gone up. So I don't know what type of advice to give them for that, but I don't know. A good advice would be like, get someone in your band whose parents are extremely wealthy.
That helps.
Even if they suck, just
Right.
have them
Or
be like
or
the tambourinist and have their parents fund the whole thing.
or who might own a record company. That helps.
Yeah, yeah, that's my advice.
That's good advice. Yeah, I think what you say about treating venues and treating people that you're working with respect is super important. You don't want to ever be the band that comes in and the crew goes, "Uh oh, here comes those guys again."
Yeah, because you're not going to get treated well. They're not going to feel good about you being there, and they're not going to want you back.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Because that's the business part of it, right? It's just good business to be kind and be, I always say be nice until you can't be nice.
Right.
Yeah. How can people check out your tour schedule and get information on your album? What do you guys have a website? I know you're on
Yeah, yeah.
social.
Yeah, our website's back in the day, somebody had mo.com for some reason, so we had to use mo.org. So we're just www.mo.org. MOE.
Awesome. And you're on social media, all that stuff,
Oh yeah,
Instagram, all the usual.
all the stuff. We've got all the stuff.
Awesome.
Although there's a new one now that I what's it?
Yeah, Blue Sky. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if we're on that yet. I would like to be, I guess.
Yeah, I just did
Or
that.
not.
That's an alternative to Twitter for people that don't like Twitter anymore, which I get.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
I've never been a Twitter guy anyhow, but I tried it and then I was like, yeah.
yeah, there's so many. Plus, you're busy anyways. It's hard to fit that in.
I've like sort of turned into a farmer. We bought a farm and I'm like just taking care of the land. So
Yeah.
last thing I want to do is be on Twitter.
Right. Yeah. Get out there, get some sunshine, and enjoy
or
life.
or in Maine, not so much sunshine, but
Well, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, we were just out there actually. We did a little county fair thing that was so fun, and they had those snowmobile races on the grass, which I loved.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, that was so super fun.
That must have been a little further north.
Yeah, I don't even remember where it was, but it was very pretty though. Um,
Yeah.
hey Rob, thanks for joining me. I know you guys are busy and your time is valuable, and I appreciate you taking the time. I really encourage everybody to check out the new album, Circle of Giants, and also check out the tour. A great band. I love the music. I'm a new fan.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you
can
so
say
much.
that honestly. I really love what you guys do. Cool, man. Have a great day and stay safe on the road. Hopefully, when you get out to the West Coast, I can come out and see you guys.
Yeah, that would be great.
Awesome. Thanks a lot.
Bye bye.
Bye, Rob.